Welcome back to the FastAPI Backend series. We built the database, we designed the models, we implemented the business logic, we defined clean API contracts, and we secured everything with authentication. And it works. And if we go to our FastAPI Swagger documentation, we can see that it works perfectly. But it only exists here on this machine. That's development. Today we cross the line. Today we make it real. Today we deploy. Deployment is not uploading files. It's not dragging code into the internet. It's the moment your software stops being private and starts being public. Deployment means a public URL, a real infrastructure, production configuration, secure environment variables, and control execution. When someone in another country types your URL and your backend responds, that's when it becomes real. A backend isn't real until someone else can reach it. We're going to use Vercel as the cloud provider, but Vercel is not the story. The story is serverless architecture. In traditional deployment, you manage servers, you configure machines, you scale infrastructure, you worry about uptime. In serverless, you don't manage servers. You provide code, the platform handles execution. The platform spins up runtime environments, it scales automatically, it handles networking, and manages concurrency. You write application logic. It runs when requested. That's the pattern. This same FastAPI app could run on AWS, Google Cloud, and even Azure Functions. Tools change, architecture principles don't. For this series, we'll use Vercel's free tier. This type of deployment begins with discipline. It requires we check on several things. One of the first things is a check for a clean ASGI entry. ASGI stands for Asynchronous Server Gateway Interface. It's a standard interface between Python web application and web servers designed to support async programming. Now, if we go to VS Code and go to our main.py file, you will see this line here, app equals FastAPI. This object is our application. Serverless platform looks for this entry point. This is what they execute. So that line creates an ASGI application, and that an ASGI server like Uvicorn can execute using the ASGI protocol. The next thing we have to check on is the requirement.txt file. In production, the cloud installs exactly what we declare. No more, no less. This file is a contract between your code and the runtime environment. In general, this file is used to list the Python dependencies your project needs so they can be installed easily and consistently. It tells tools like PIP to install exactly these packages. In development, we tolerate shortcuts, but in production, we remove them. So no hard-coded secrets, no local file paths, no debug configs. So we separate configuration from code. That's professional backend engineering. So if we were to go to our .env file, we see these environment variables here. These values live in the environment and not in the repository. Remember, we don't commit this file to GitHub. So if someone clones the project, they don't get your secrets. Security is configuration control, pretty much. So locally, we use a .env file. In production, the platform provides these values. Now that the application is environment aware, we need to tell the platform how to run it. To do this, we'll create a new file called vercel.json. So let's create a new file at the root level. We'll use the touch command. Touch vercel.json. And this will create a new file here for us. This file is not about secrets, it's about execution. We're declaring how this project runs, basically. We're talking about which runtime, which directory, how requests are handled. The file is not magic, it's basically instructions. Now let's add the instruction code inside of the file. The instructions file basically is saying that version 2 tells Vercel to use modern build system. Builds declares which file in the entry point, also which runtime should execute it. SRC, the source here, treat main py as a Python serverless function. And the root, this part here, means sends all incoming HTTP requests to main py. FastAPI then handles routing internally. Before moving on to Vercel, there's a couple of things we need to update in the code as it relates to FastAPI and serverless deployment on cloud platforms like Vercel. The first one is in our main.py file, so let's go there. And we needed to change our fake user data, the way we're getting it, as it would have created problem on serverless platforms. So what we ended up doing is create a new function called getFakeUsers, and then use a global variables to keep up with the data, with setting up the data. Fake users DB. If it's none, then we're doing the fake username and the hash password here. So the problem is we had to redesign it because database user, it will cause serverless function issues when hashing at import time. With the approach that we're taking here, we don't have to worry about hashing at import time. hash will only run on first login request. The same hash will be reused for future requests within that instance. And it also prevents the Vercel cold start crash, which can happen with the free tier. So, and then we updated after creating this function and setting up the global fake users DB, we end up updating our login endpoint to use it this way. We'll set users DB to the new function to get fake users, and then we'll set a user variable here to get the form data, and everything else is pretty much the same as it was. So that's a change that we had to make in main.py file. We also had to make a change in the requirement text file. Vercel or platforms like Vercel usually checks to see the compatibility between certain dependencies, and FastLib and bcrypt was one of the ones that would cause issues. So what we needed to do here is pass the correct version of compatibility between FastLib and bcrypt. So it seems like the most stable one out there is 1.74, and for bcrypt it's 4.01. So that's the change that we made. Those two were added to the requirements.txt file. Now let's push this code, and this will be our final git commit. So let's just save everything, and then we'll go and do our final commit for this series, and then we'll click commit. Yes, and then we'll push it and sync it to GitHub. Before we jump over to the Vercel website, let's jump to GitHub and get our repo's address. We'll need that when we get to Vercel. So either write your address somewhere or copy it so you can paste it when you're ready to use it in Vercel. So now we jumped over to vercel.com. If you don't have an account yet, you'll probably want to sign up for one. I don't have one, so I'm going to click on sign up. And I will be using the hobby version. That's my plan type. That's the one that gives you the free tier. And I will use this name, Markman Media, as my name. And then click on continue. And I will create my account using email. So I will use my Markman Media at Gmail account. And click on continue. And then if you don't have an account yet, we have sent a code to that email address. That's what it's telling me. So I should get like a 6-digit, looks like a 6-digit number that I need to go to that email and get. So I've entered my 6-digit code. And to continue signing up, please enter a phone number for verification with a one-time code. I'll enter my phone number here and then click continue. For security reasons, I won't type it here, but that's the next step here. After entering your phone number, you'll get a text that asks you to enter a 4-digit number, and then after that, you will be sent to the screen here. Now we can import our Git repo. We'll continue with GitHub since that's where our repo is. Click on this button here, and it because we're integrated with Vercel, you can see it automatically picked up my repo from GitHub. So I'll click import, and then it'll start doing the importing from GitHub actions here. And choose where you want to create the project and give it a name. We'll keep everything the same, and we'll just click on environment variables. We might as well set up our environment variables here, and we'll enter them one at a time. And we can get these variables from our vscode.env file. So let's jump to VS Code and get those and set them up here. So in VS Code and inside the .env file, we have about 4 environment variables. So we're just gonna copy the key and the values one at a time. So we'll copy the database first. Then we'll just go back and forth. And we'll set the value. And then we'll say add more. Then we'll add the next one, which is secret key. We'll click here for secret key. Then we'll get the value. And the next one will be algorithm. Add more. Algorithm. And the value for algorithm will be HS256. Then we'll add one more. Access token, expiry time. And then we'll put it for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. And then that's our environment variables. Now we'll just click deploy. And it'll take 30 or so seconds to deploy. You can see it's telling you what is the steps that are going here as far as the stages. Okay, the deployment is finished and it was successful. You can see it's telling you congratulations. You just deploy a new project to our project group. And then as you can see, it pretty much ran perfectly. That's the first root endpoint that we created here. Now we can continue to the dashboard. At the dashboard, you will see our new domain. So this is the new domain that Vercel has provided us. With this domain, you can reach your API anywhere in the world. For example, if we go to Northwind Light, FastAPI Vercel.app, we click here or copy paste it into a browser, it should take us to our API. And this is our root. Now to test it, we can pretty much go to do a /docs to take us to the Swagger API. And there you go. Swagger UI. And then what you have here is your endpoints. we can do a quick test to see if our environment variables took, and if it's actually going to the database to get the data. So we can click on sales here and then try it out, execute, and here's our data. And we're not in local, we're in a real endpoint provided to us by Vercel that we can use anywhere in the world to get to our API. You can also test our JWT by going to our sales version 2 of the sales data. And if we try to access it, again, not localhost, we should get a 401 error, not authenticated, which is expected. But if we want to authorize the user to use that endpoint, we can use Swagger's authorize form here and use our fake account, which was admin for the username and admin123 for the password, and then click authorize, then close the form, and then now we should be able to execute our sales version 2 endpoint and get data. And here's our response code of 200 success, and here's our data here. So our JWT is working. Everything seems to be working. And again, the point here, we deployed it to a cloud provider to make it accessible to the world. So our API is now live, structured, secure, accessible from anywhere. To summarize what just happened here architecturally, our API now runs in a serverless environment. When a request arrives, the platform executes our code. It scales automatically. It doesn't maintain state between requests. We didn't just deploy code, we deployed a system. In real companies, CI/CD, or continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines automate deployments. Multiple environments exist. Monitoring and logging are configured. Rollbacks are possible, but the fundamentals remain the same. Clean code, controlled configuration, and intentional deployment. The Vercel's free tier does include automatic CI/CD deployment from connected Git repositories. So what happens on the free tier is when you connect a Git provider like GitHub, just like we did to our Vercel project, whenever you push code to a branch, just like we did what we're doing here, Vercel automatically detects the push. It builds your project using your configured settings. It deploys a preview URL for pull merge requests if as option, or a production URL for pushes to your production branch like main. This happened without needing to manually get to trigger a deploy. So the typical flow would be you write code locally, you commit and push to say like your branch's name main, and then Vercel automatically runs the build, deploys your site app with the updated code, and then provides logs you can view in the Vercel dashboard. We've reached the end of this series. We started with an architecture, knowing exactly what we wanted to do. We added business logic. We defined contracts. We enforced security. And now we deploy to the cloud. This is backend engineering. If you completed this series, you didn't build a toy project. You built a production-ready API. And more importantly, you learned the architecture behind it. If tomorrow you switch cloud providers, nothing fundamental changes. You understand the pattern. If you enjoyed the series, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next series.